I hope everybody had a good Memorial Day yesterday. President Joe Biden spent the day not only with the widow of his late son, Beau Biden, but also in a wreath laying ceremony and speaking about the sacrifice that so many members of the American military have made. And I was reflecting on Memorial Day yesterday. You know, there was a point sometime in history where the American right wing did a pretty good job of convincing us that they had a monopoly on patriotism and on supporting the troops and on being so-called pro-military. But it's been a very long time since I stupidly fell for that, which is very much untrue. The first exhibit, of course, is failed former President Donald Trump's Memorial Day message, which, as you can imagine, was completely deranged and unhinged, but it serves as an entry point into the conversation I want to have about the American military. Donald Trump posting yesterday to his platform Truth Social.
Truth Central.
Quote, "Happy Memorial Day to all, including the human scum that is working so hard to destroy our once great country. And to the radical left, Trump-hating federal judge in New York that presided over, get this, 2 separate trials that awarded a woman who I never met before, a quick handshake at a celebrity event 25 years ago doesn't count, $91 million for, quote, defamation." This is Trump's Memorial Day message. She didn't know when the so-called event took place sometime in the 90s, never filed a police report, didn't have to produce the dress that she threatened me with. It showed negative, and sung my praises in the first half of her CNN interview with Allison Cooper, but changed her tune in the second half. Gee, I wonder why. Under appeal. The rape charge was dropped by a jury, or Arthur Engeron, the New York State wacko judge who fined me under $500 million under appeal for doing nothing wrong, used a statute that has never been used before, gave me no jury, Mar-a-Lago at 18 million, now for Merchan. That is crazy. That is Trump's Memorial Day message. And as you can see, there is nothing in there about recognizing that even for Trump, he was able to get out of serving because of that stupid note about his feet, in part because we had so many others who were willing to serve, or at least accepted their conscriptions, which, by the way, the draft was a disaster, Vietnam was a disaster. But the point here is Trump wants to act like he is the alpha tough guy who will do what needs to be done and what the government did. And then, no, that's absolutely not the case. Now, I started to suspect more than 20 years ago that Republicans have a very disgusting definition of what it means to support the troops. When I was coming of age and starting to see the beating of the war drums towards the war in Iraq over something perpetrated primarily by Saudis, 9/11, I started to see this reflexive reaction. Don't you support the troops? Well, yeah, I support the troops. That's why I want to keep them out of harm's way in stupid wars. No, you support the troops by saying George W. Bush is a patriot for taking out Saddam and starting this war. That's not supporting the troops. So support the troops for a while meant you support the mission blindly and unquestioningly. And then, of course, we have so many of these other examples of how they claim this monopoly on patriotism and military support, but it means nothing. Trump saying that these are suckers and losers, as we heard from his former chief of staff, John Kelly. Trump describing avoiding an STD during sexual activity, his, quote, Vietnam. You might remember when Trump said he always wanted a Purple Heart, and it's certainly easier to get one from a veteran like he did.
And he said, that's my real Purple Heart. I have such confidence in you. And I said, man, that's like big stuff. I always wanted to get the Purple Heart. This was much easier.
There you go. As you can see, reverence for those who have served and sacrificed. Trump would regularly make fun of the late Senator John McCain, who, of course, was tortured as a prisoner of war. As a result, couldn't lift his arms above a certain height. Trump once said he prefers war heroes who don't get captured, a disgusting commentary. And then here he is saying, McCain was unable to lift his arms.
Obamacare is a catastrophe. Nobody talks about it. You know, without John McCain, we would have had it done. But John McCain, for some reason, couldn't get his arm up that day. Remember? He goes, That was the end of that.
And of course, there's always some plausible deniability. Oh no, all Donald Trump meant is he voted down instead of up. But we all know about John McCain's injury, and it's absolutely disgusting thing to do. So that's Trump. But then you zoom out, and it applies to Republicans more broadly. Funding to get proper health care to veterans and to returning troops. Nah, they don't want that. The VA. Some of the Republicans want to do away with the VA because it's a form of socialized health care. Voted against expanding health care benefits for toxic exposed veterans. We just spoke last week about the 1 million approved claims under Biden's law for taking care of veterans exposed to toxicity or their families if the veterans have passed away. Republicans voted against that. They spent months, remember Tommy Tuberville? Months blocking military promotions, which by their standards threaten the military. If we don't have a fully staffed military with everybody promoted where they're needed, we are weaker. National security suffers. This is according to them. And yet they were totally comfortable holding up military promotions over, I'm now even struggling to remember, I think it was related to abortion. So they really don't support the troops. What it means to support the troops, what it means to patriotically be there for these people who say, hey, you know what? I'm going to choose to serve such that we don't need a draft. This is separate from whether you love the military engagements of the U.S. around the world. Most of them I don't. Is we take care of those who choose to serve by giving them health care when they come back. And by the way, we should do that for everybody. It's not just members of the military. We make sure that when there are health issues that relate to their service, whether it's physical or mental health issues, look at the suicide epidemic among returning members of the military. We properly fund that. We never use military action unless it is absolutely necessary to preserve national security. We don't say, hey, you know what? Iraq didn't attack us, but I really don't like Saddam, and my dad wasn't able to get rid of him. This is George W. Bush speaking for George H.W. Bush. So I think we'll go to Iraq. I don't know, even though they had nothing to do with 9/11 whatsoever. None of that is, that is not supporting the troops. So a Memorial Day reminder of the disgusting way in which the right claims this monopoly on supporting the troops and respecting the military, and it is really very, very much the opposite. We all know someone who's been the victim of identity theft or accidentally downloading a virus, and it costs time, money, maybe your personal files. And what I've used for years to keep my devices safe from malware is Malwarebytes. I've been using this for years and years before they ever became a sponsor, and it's because Malwarebytes is just the standard. It gets great scores from the independent cybersecurity labs. It's almost always the top choice from consumer tech publications. CNET, for example, just declared Malwarebytes the best malware removal service of 2024. Malwarebytes' expertise and dedication to cybersecurity excellence just sets them apart from the other antivirus companies. They catch all kinds of threats that antiviruses often don't. You get comprehensive real-time protection against a huge variety of online threats, and it will detect and remove existing malware already on your devices as well. And now you can get the Identity Theft Protection Bundle to protect your entire family's personal information with live monitoring, alerts, recovery assistance, and up to $1 million in identity theft insurance. Malwarebytes has a special deal only for the David Pakman Show. You can get any Malwarebytes subscription for 50% off. That's half off at malwarebytes.com/Pakman. That's malwarebytes.com/Pakman to get half off your subscription. The link is in the podcast notes.